What is going on, Bulls Nation? So, there are reports by Casey Johnson, which is a very reputable reporter for the Chicago Bulls, that Billy Donovan's job is very safe. We all know that he signed an extension. Let's talk about that right after this.
Get the lowdown on one of the most iconic basketball teams in the world. You're listening to Chicago Bulls Nation.
All right, Bulls Nation. So, I'm sure I'm not the only one who's, a bit puzzled on how, especially with that last defeat. Well, the last two defeat, when we were leading by 21 and then we lost. And then right after that, this embarrassing performance, if you want to call it that, if you want to call it a performance against the Boston Celtics, where they were doing a hack at Drummond because they wanted to win by 23 or more, and which they did. So there's a saying, it's easier to change the coach than to change the players. But in this case, the ideal situation is to change everything, to clean house. But reportedly, it looks like Billy Donovan signed a $24 million contract extension with the Bulls. So you can't just fire a coach that you owe $24 million. I get that from that perspective, even though, it's easy to say just pay the guy and let him move away, but it's not my money. And I know the Reinsdorf are not going to do that. Now, with that being said, so where do the Bulls go from here? Because as far as we know, Billy Donovan does not want to be a part, or at least on OKC, of a rebuilding process. Is that why AK said what he said on the press conference, where he wanted to see what happens to the Zach situation first, as far as the roster is concerned, before he makes any additional trades? Because the most logical thing to do is tear it down and just build a new one back up. Because you can't just, in my opinion, you just can't trade Zach LaVine and then keep the remaining core. I mean, you could technically, but it's not the most ideal situation. Because, okay, let you trade Zach. DeMar is probably going to walk next year. And then Alex Caruso and all that stuff. The ideal situation is to start over. And you want to start over with a new coach as well. But since you owe him $24 million, why don't you just restart over? The hell with his feelings if that's how he feels. Like I mentioned earlier, it looks like he doesn't want to be a part of a rebuilding team. Well, boo-hoo. You're the biggest part while we are rebuilding right now. In my opinion, this roster is capable enough to be in the playoffs, not a championship one. If you give this roster to a different coach, he would make the most out of it. There's no perfect roster, but this roster is pretty darn good. But he just, his defensive philosophy and all that stuff just doesn't work. His philosophy is switching, and then you got Vooch in your center position. Did Donovan sign up for Vooch to be re-signed? That's the question. Or is it more of the front office doesn't want to cut their losses because that's admitting defeat when it comes to Vooch, that they made a mistake in trading 2 first-rounders for Vucevic? I don't know. But if that is the case, sure, keep Donovan. Let him suffer like the most of us here, because we all know rebuilding process is going to be a pain for Bulls fans. We did that. We came up with Lauri Markkanen, Kobe White, Patrick Williams. Not necessarily a good indication of, like the deep process. I'm doing air quotes here. I don't even know if I trust AK to draft the right person, even if we do tank. We're probably going to end up with number 7 again and then draft the wrong person. It feels like AK is good at drafting towards the latter part of the draft because there is no pressure. If it turns bad, then there's nothing. Like Ayo Dosunmu, or in this case, Julian Phillips. There's no pressure. Unlike if you pick in the higher, in the lottery, they have to pan out somewhere. Otherwise you look like a fool. And so far, that's what they've been doing. I wouldn't count Dalen Terry because he's not a lottery pick, but, Patrick Williams. I would say to an extent Dalen Terry, even though, at 18th, yeah, I guess. But even on Denver, you got some questionable picks as well. So I don't know if I trust this front office to fully. If you tear it down, is there more, hope in there? I give it to AK and Mark Eversley. They're good when it comes to free agents. We were able to get Zoe and DeMar and Vooch. It just didn't work out. I think they're a better free agent / trade, whatever, because even the most recent signings of Torrey Craig and Javon Carter, I like him. Even back, with what's his name? The one in Dallas now, DJJ. He's pretty good signing as well. So I think they're better in terms of negotiations with players as far as signing and all that stuff, rather than drafting. But who knows? But as far as Billy's concerned, his job is safe. It looks like there's no point in time where he's gonna get fired. So we just gotta admit that fact. And I'm almost getting to the conclusion that we are not rebuilding. We are retooling. So the moment we trade Zach, if that means Vooch is gonna be the centerpiece, as sad as it sounds, of this franchise, it looks like that's where we're headed. Because DeMar, it looks like he's gonna walk away or he's gonna be traded right after Zach. He's gonna be traded because maybe he just doesn't want to be here anymore. And there's reports that they can't agree on the amount and the time anyway of the length of the contract. So, but my God, a time where Vooch is gonna be the centerpiece of your franchise, along with Patrick Williams, Ayo Dosunmu, and Kobe White. You can remove Vooch in there. I'd rather roll with Ayo, Kobe, and Patrick. At least they're young with upside. I don't even know if Patrick Williams is gonna be here next year because they didn't sign a guy. So who knows? We'll see where it all leads to. I'm curious up until the trade deadline. Is Patrick Williams going to be here? Because if it's not, might as well trade him. We'll see where it leads us. I'm interested to see as well. But right now, it is painful to watch the Chicago Bulls. But let me know in the comments, what is the best path? Or if you have any suggestion to save this franchise, let's say if we are not rebuilding, because that is the hardest part. Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.